Hi, folks out there. Today we have three special guests, three heroes, and they're all welcome to the Revere Veterans and Community show. I'll start introducing them from my left to right. Sal Pomer, who was a tail gunner during the Second World War, flew a B-24 Liberator. Sal, let me salute you first, and thank you for coming on the show, sir. Thank you.
Very good. My pleasure.
Margaret Flanagan, you're all a real hero, too. Thank you for coming on the show. And Sergeant James Cotter, who likes to be called Jim, by the way, was a nuclear weapons crew chief who loaded them earth-shaking mortars for the 405th F.W. Clark Air Force Base, PI 1965 to 1967, Hot Alert Lieutenant, Air Force Base, Taiwan. Also, the U.S. Air Force 523rd TFS F-100, which was known as the Hunts. And Chuck Yeager was his boss, and let me welcome you too, sir. That's okay.
Easy, Jim.
Good morning, sir.
And I salute you and thank you for your service. We're going to start with you first, Sal.
Okay.
You flew as a tail gunner.
Tail gunner, B-24. I was stationed in India, China-Burma India Theater, and we were 100 miles north of Calcutta, and most of our missions were Indochina, helping General Stilwell, and
He was head of the Flying Tigers,
he
General.
was, yeah, he was. And we dropped supplies to him a few times. But one of my stories that I tell is the beer run that we had. I call it the beer run. We had this observation plane take pictures of the Japanese at Indochina, and they had all these cases on the pier in Rangoon, and we didn't know what they were, so they told us to go and strafe it. So 3 of the planes, and I was in the lead ship, we came down at 500 feet, and all the guns, we had 10 guns on a B-24, and they strafed the heck out of it. You could see the bullets hitting those cases and being splintered and everything. And as you're shooting, there's a gun camera that takes pictures every time you shoot. So as soon as you come back to the base, you go to the concert hut, and they ask you the question, debriefing, and they were asking us, what did you see? Any Zeros come after you? We said, no, we saw 2 on the ground, but they didn't come up after us. It was late during the war, and they were starting to feel cut off from the rest of the Japanese army and everything in Rangoon.
Did you ever knock any of them out of the sky, Sal?
We had a couple come after us once, and we fired at them, but no, we didn't shoot them down, and they didn't shoot us down. Thank God. But anyway, we went in low at 500 feet, shot up these boxes, and like I said, as we're shooting, they're taking pictures of it with the gun cameras. As soon as you land, they pull the cameras out and develop the film, and we're in debriefing. So they were debriefing us, asking us all questions about any anti-aircraft shooting at us. We said, yeah, a little, but mostly rifle fire because we were so low. But all of a sudden, the concert door hut flew open, and this photographer, he had a big picture, but it was facing toward him. He says, wait till you see this. He says, you guys were flying so low I could almost see some writing on those cases. So I kept blowing it up and blowing it up. And he flipped it over. He says, you know what you shot up? Pabst Blue Ribbon. Japanese didn't like our beer, and evidently we had it in the warehouses that they captured, and they put it all out on the pier. And there it was. You could see the bullets hitting the cases and the beer sprouting.
I got to ask you this question, Sal. You know, I watched the military channel, and they showed the B-24, the B-25s, about the tail gunners. Some of them had the turrets on top as well as on the bottom.
Right.
But the ones that were sitting, they were all cramped up in there in a little tiny spot that they had to bend their knees to get in there to sit there.
The ball turret was very, very tight to get into. And I had my ball turret was 6 foot tall. His knees were right against his cheeks.
Right.
Yeah, but the tail gunner was, and the nose gunner, we had enough room to put your feet in, and the gun camera was right here with 250 calibers on either side of you.
Did you have to go for training to be in the?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
we went
And where did you train, if I may ask?
Tyndallfield, Florida was a gunnery school where we trained. Yeah. Then we went to Charlestown, South Carolina, where we trained as a crew. We formed our crew, and we was sent to India from there.
That's good.
It was quite an experience. With the oldest one on the plane was 23 years old. The co-pilot.
The oldest?
The co-pilot was 23. The pilot was 21. The nose gunner and the tail gunner, me, were 18. We were the youngest. We were the kids.
Just
wet
about my
behind
age,
the
too.
But yeah, it was quite an experience when you think
Right.
back, real kids.
I'm going to get back to you, Sal, but I
Sure.
want to thank you again. Margaret Flanagan, I believe?
Yes, I remember being in high school when the war was, they started the war, and going up to the assembly hall, and we couldn't believe what happened. And I was still in high school, so I wanted to join the nurses corps, but there was no support. So now I end up being an old person who is very involved in the American Legion Auxiliary, and I've been president of 210 for about 25 years, and I'm working very, very hard on homeless vets. They have a very soft spot in my heart. We have already donated 1,500 bags that they give out. They consist of a quart bag, a zippy bag with a face cloth, socks, and toiletries, and people have been more than generous. We have made 10 bags for veterans who go into homes with toilet paper, soap, towels, and that, and I have enough sheets, pillowcases, etc., to furnish 2 apartments.
Good, Margaret. I have to ask you a question. What town is the Women's Auxiliary that you represent?
Saugus.
If people wanted to donate items to you, would you tell them how they can do that?
You can leave them, call the Saugus American Legion, and they also have breakfast on Friday morning, so you can bring your items there if you would like.
And where's it located at?
At Taylor Street in Saugus.
Right. And if they want to get a hold of you, can they call you?
Call me at 781-233-2509.
Right, Margaret. I got to tell you, you are a real veteran of the community. Really.
I am I'm very happy, very happy.
And you're very precious to veterans like Sal and myself and
certainly is.
Jim there.
Well, Sal and I were friends when we were a little young, and we met after 50 years, and we're having fun.
Good.
We did ride in a B-24 a couple of weeks ago, and we went from Beverly to Plymouth, and he went down to where he was a tail gunner when he was 18 years old, 70 years ago.
How about
70
that?
years ago.
70 years ago?
70. Oh.
That means you're 88.
I'll be 88 next month.
God bless you. Happy birthday to
Thank you.
Now we have a real gentleman, Jim Cotter. Jim, you would like to talk about your veterans, but you also like to talk about what you're doing for the holiday. So take it away.
Jim Cotter, and I've been on the show before. I brought on Lieutenant Colonel Woodhouse, and we were interviewed. I'm a recently disabled 30% disability award from the Vietnam War, and only took 45 years to receive it. And I started a nonprofit in 2011 to promote awareness of the problem of homeless veterans. And over that period of time, I've had 3 dinners, 1 in Wakefield and 2 at the Kowloon restaurant. In April of 2011, I honored Darrell Shifty Powers, who was the 2nd most decorated Army guy in World War II, who no one had ever heard of. And there was an email going around from Major General Chuck Yeager bemoaning the fact that the United States government had not recognized his passing in July 2009. So I said, why did you pick Darrell 50 Powers? I said, because Yeager was my boss, and you do what your boss tells you to do. So then I did 2 road races around the lake in Wakefield in 2011. One was in honor of Navy Captain Thomas Hudner from Concord, Tom just turned 89, and he received the Medal of Honor in Korea, which hopefully someday we get him on this show. Remarkable gentleman. And Darrell Shitty Powers again. And in May 2012, we did another dinner, and I brought 20 homeless gentlemen out from the Court Street shelter, and we entertained them to a comedy show and music. Set up a picnic for them in September of 2012, and we had 30 signed up from the shelter to come, and eventually it was 18. So my wife and I are thinking, where do you take 18 men to that you'd have to watch if you had an outdoor picnic, that they wouldn't go wander off and drown? So I took them to Hooters restaurant on Route 1. And they walked in the restaurant and they said, "Is this heaven? That's the closest you're going to get on this earth." And we had no problem about having attention on it. And Morgan White, who was a WBZ talk show host, he does a trivia show, was our master of ceremonies. Last December 15, did a Christmas party at the Kowloon. Was our first annual Christmas party, and Jordan Rich from WBZ, who's very well known, was our master of ceremonies, and Morgan White was the co-master of ceremonies. We brought 50 gentlemen out from the shelter at Court Street in Boston, and we treated them to a good comedy show. We had local comedian Paul D'Angelo, Dave Russo, Tony V, Sal Pomer. So that was a great success. So our next Christmas show at the Kowloon is going to be Saturday, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. And from 11:30 to about 12:15, we're going to have a cocktail hour, like a meet and greet. And we have invited Joanne Patton, General Patton's daughter-in-law, Benjamin Patton, her son, grandson of General Patton, whom I was in a workshop out to the Hamilton Estate this past week, making a short film on my disability and my claims to the VA. Also, we have 2 medals of honor, Captain Thomas Hudman, Captain Thomas Kelly, and we have 3 POWs from World War II, from Korean War, and from the Vietnam War. The gentleman from World War II, who we had hoped to be on the show today, and we have at a later date, his name is Al Romano, 92 years young. He goes to work every day in Wakefield, and he has POW on his license plate. So, where were you at POW, Al? And he said, it was nothing. It was nothing. He said, I was on a famous raid on August 1st, 1943 out of Benghazi, Libya, and we went and bombed the Ploiești oil fields in Romania. But we only had enough fuel for one way on it.
Jim, excuse me for 1 second, sir.
Yeah.
Talking about powers at the Ploiești airfields, there was a program on about 168 pilots, American pilots, that were shot down during the war over Germany from B-29s and other bombers. I mean, B-17s, excuse me, B-17s. 168 of them wound up in the concentration camp at Buchenwald, but they were kept separate from the other prisoners who were being gassed on another area. I never knew that.
Yep.
And some of them also flew over the Ploiești oil field. So take it away, Jeff.
So they were fortunate. He said, I think they only had enough fuel. They got shot up pretty bad, so they're getting ready for crash landing. And he said they went to secure the plane and went back, and there's a 500-pound bomb hung up in the bomb bay. He's there with a wrench. So jettison the bomb, secure, crash land in the field. So they get picked up by the Romanians. So it's a German prison, Romanian guards. And they landed on the estate of a Romanian princess from the royal family. And she brought them care packages for the next 13 months. And then when the Germans pulled back into Germany in late 44, she helped them escape to Italy. And I'm listening to a story like this. I said, you couldn't script this. He says, oh, well, there's a little book written on us. So he's a remarkable person. Stephen Harris from Melrose is a retired Navy lieutenant commander. And Stephen was tortured by the North Koreans for 11 months in 1968, and he was the executive officer number 2 on the Pueblo spy ship. And he always speaks and he defends Captain Bucher. And he was our speaker in Saugus for last Memorial Day.
For the people who don't know out there about the Pueblo spy ship, tell them that was during the, that started the war with the Koreans, I believe.
No, in 1968, it was just, they were offshore in supposedly international waters, and there was just something that they wanted a provocation on it, and they seized the ship. And apparently it wasn't really a military, it was an NSA, National Security Agency ship. So, I mean, the rules of engagement were really totally different. So the code machine was seized and ended up in Russia. So it was a real, and then it was really quiet. Recently, they've taken the ship and put it up on shore for a museum. And just an anecdotal, this Navy Captain Tom Hudner just came back from North Korea, 89 years old, trying to find his wingman who was shot down in 1950. And they tried to get him to go on to the Pueblo, but he didn't buy into the propaganda ploy on that.
Jim, excuse me. I had Jim Demer from the Rolling Thunders on here.
Joe.
Joe. And there was a North Korean that came back 60 years. They found his body, and they just brought it back over here to Logan Airport.
Yep.
60 years ago.
Right.
So that's a long time.
Right.
Jim, you've got a lot of literature in your hand. I see you have a book about Patton there. You also have things about the holidays. Tell us about them.
This is a book that was given to me, signed by Benjamin Patton, the grandson, for participating in this post-traumatic stress workshop last weekend. And we had a chance to make our own little films. And I only became aware in November 2011 that I was eligible to file for disability. And I received 30% award for post-traumatic stress. I also applied for exposure to nuclear radiation and also Agent Orange in the Philippines. So this film that I made, I call Burden of Proof. So the burden of proof is on the individual that is, questioning the VA on a claim. The documentation that you have to reach back basically 50 years to provide yourself. And then really what the outcome is, the VA can be helpful, but you need to go to the Disabled American Veterans. Join them. It's $140 for annual membership, and they will fight tooth and nail for you. So let's just say my film was called Burden of Proof on it. My Christmas party at the Kowloon is Saturday, December 7th, from 11 a.m. To 12:15 will be a cocktail hour, and from 12 to 4, we'll have James Montgomery Blues Band for about an hour set. We'll have 6 top-line comedians, Paul D'Angelo, Dave Russo, Bob Sabel, Tony V, Sal Vitano, and Mitch Stinson. So we'll do 2 45-minute comedy shows. All be very tight-knit. I'm honoring Joanne Patton, Benjamin Patton, and hopefully they can show up. And then the local Andrew Biggio, who is a Winthrop resident, and he is the Veteran Service Officer in Wakefield Saugus, and he's done a tremendous job. And he's also, they had me join the Italian American War Veterans Club in East Boston about 2 months ago. So I changed my name from Cotter to Catterio for the night, and then to find out that 80% of the membership is Irish anyway, so it didn't make any difference.
So could I change your name from Jim to Gino?
Yeah. So we do, this is a motorcycle bike run. Andrew has raised $250,000 in 3 bike runs over the last 3 years, and he had 4,000 motorcycles last year that came through Revere, and we ended up in Suffolk Downs. This next year, shooting for 5,000 motorcycles on April 28th on it. So.
A flabbergasted. Go ahead.
Really?
No. So have you had Andrew on?
I had Andrew on.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent gentleman.
For 25 years old, I mean, it's remarkable what he's done. So
Yep.
far.
Matter of fact, he gave me a shirt about the veteran run.
About the bike run.
Yep.
All right. So hopefully the ticket price is $100 for the cocktail hour, but really the first 100 tickets we'll get into the cocktail hour. 75, 65 if you purchase a table of 10, so $6.50 for a table of 10, and 55 for active duty veterans or any young men and women have just come back from Afghanistan and Iraq. And if you want to come in full uniform, you come in free.
Jim, tell them how they can contact you if they want to buy the tickets.
Call me at area code 781-850-6478, or you can email me at Tigger, Tigger 13 at Suburban, SUBURBANLIVERY.com. That's my airport service I have out of Wakefield.
Thank you, Jim. Now I want to get back to Sal for a few more minutes. You're not only a World War II veteran, you're a Korea veteran as well. Tell us a little about your Korean experience.
I didn't go overseas.
Don't make any difference. You're still a veteran
of Korea. I was an
Korea.
instructor in gunnery school.
And where did you do that, Sal?
I taught gunnery for the new ones coming in, for mostly the modern ships than the B-24 that I flew in, more attack planes. But it was quite interesting considering the difference in speed and sound. But that was about it.
Tell us about
I didn't go overseas at all
during the Korea War.
No.
But tell us about your childhood when you grew up. You know, where you were born.
Well,
raised.
I was from East Boston, born and raised in East Boston with Margaret here. We went to school together from the 5th grade up, and I just met her about 12 years ago after 60 years. And
you were both 10 years old at the time?
about that,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
And we've been having quite a good time together for the last 12 years.
That's good.
My wife passed away 23 years ago, and it was tough going for a while there.
Yep.
But
my wife is still alive, but she hardly gets around anymore.
I worked with the state for 38 years as a civil engineer and retired in 1990.
You should do structural design and drafting.
I started out as a structural. I ended up in public relations
Right.
for the state, yeah. But it was quite a tour.
I had the honor of working for some of the ones in Boston, like Stone and Webster,
Right, yeah.
Bechtel Corporation,
Back to, oh, yeah.
Charles T. Maine. They were
don't
structural
know.
and
Yeah.
civil engineers. Yep. So, welcome.
Tell me
Very
about
good.
your bomb experience.
That was she likes to.
That's,
Yeah, I like to hear it too.
I love it.
Did you ever hear it, Jim?
No?
Let us have it, Sal.
We were on a bomb run and to Rangoon. We dropped the bombs and turned around and heading back. And I get a call from the bombardier, and he said, "Sal, check the bomb bay." He says, "My indicator, when you've dropped the bombs, he has an indicator that shows that the bombs have been dropped." He says, "It looks like one of the bombs just didn't drop." So I said, "Okay." So the bomb bay doors were still open, and there's only an 8-inch walkway in the bomb bay, and you can't wear a parachute. It's in the way because it's very tight quarter. I went out, and sure enough, there was a 500-pound bomb hanging by these 2 lugs that hold the bombs in the bomb rack, and one of the lugs was released, but the other one was holding the bomb on an angle, facing down, and a 500-pound bomb. And I squeezed through the bomb bay and held onto the bomb rack, and you can hand release it. And I released the bomb, and stupid me, I should have known better, because a 500-pound bomb, when it's released, the plane goes straight up,
Right.
because of the loss of the weight.
Right.
And I was going to watch it, and I'm holding it with one hand, and when it released, I fell over. And I grabbed the bomb bay doors, and my feet were still on the 8-inch catwalk. And I'm looking straight down at the Indian Ocean, and no parachute, and all these things are going through my mind. And my mother's going to get, your son was missing in action. I said, "I'm not missing, I'm drowning in the Indian Ocean." All of a sudden, the engineer came down to see what to release to see if everything had worked out, and he saw me, and I'm hollering out, "Shut the doors, shut the doors." So he finally, and the doors shut like this, and I scrambled up the door and got back in.
Sal, I'd like to ask you a question about that. Who tells you when to release the bomb? I mean, is it the navigator or the pilot, or how does that work?
No,
I mean,
it's the bombardier. The bombardier, the navigator gets him into the run, the
Right.
bombing run. He gets him to straight off into the bombing run, and then the bombardier. We had the bomb sight, the latest one. I can't remember the name of it now, but he can follow the ground and see through this eyepiece.
but you don't drop it right over
Exactly.
the target. I mean, because the bomb, when it comes down, sort of kind of,
They do, yeah, but this bomb sight is always looking ahead.
oh, I see.
And as soon as it's coordinated with the release of the bomb that they will go ahead, you know, because of the movement of the plane and the bombs are going to go that way. So when he looks into it and he presses the button and the bombs all release at one time. But he can toggle them that just one at a time too.
Do you remember who the people were on your plane?
Every one of them.
Would you tell us their names and ages?
Sure.
And if they're out there, thank you for your service.
Paul B. Bell was the pilot. He was 21 years old.
Wow.
The co-pilot was Tex Dare, and he was 23. He was the oldest member on the plane. The bombardier was Hoyle B. Adams, and the navigator was Dean D. Yazik. The nose gunner was Jim Paletti, and the ball turret gunner was Bob Burns, and I was the tail gunner.
You mentioned the name Yazik.
Yazik.
There's a gentleman that's the manager of the Stop and Shop right here in Revere.
Really?
His name is Yazik.
I wonder if he's related.
I know.
He was from upstate New York.
Right.
And he had just gotten married, too. And one of the stories I tell is that we were flying, going overseas. We left from New Jersey. We flew up to Maine. From Maine, we went to Bermuda. And then from Bermuda to the Azores. Well, from Bermuda to the Azores was a 3-hour flight. And we took off, and we're flying and flying and flying. I'm sitting in the waist, and I'm saying, geez, it's taken an awful long time. We should have been there by now. But, you know, then all of a sudden the pilot gets on the microphone. He says, "We got problems." He says, "We got hit by a lightning storm. We went through a real bad lightning storm, and evidently it hit our radio compass, and we didn't know it. So we were flying blind, you might say." And the pilot says, "We're in trouble. We're running out of gas, and we don't get any signal at all from the base. Usually we get a signal that will guide us in." And he says, "It looks bad." He says, "I'm going to go down. If anyone sees any land, yell." So we went below the clouds, nothing. And he went up again, and he said, "Get ready to ditch." So when you get ready to ditch, you get stuff ready to throw out to make the plane lighter. So we piled it up near the door, and he's thinking of back and forth to himself. He says, "If we ditch, we're going to go right down fast." And I said, "Nah," he says, "I think we'll parachute instead." So everybody puts their chutes on. And he said, "Let's try one more time. Keep your eyes open." So we went down below the clouds, and till this very day, God was with us because we didn't have to go left or right. Right in front of us was the airfield. Put down the wheels, and we went right in and landed. And as we're landing, this is the truth. One by one, those motors stopped. 4 motors.
Just
Till we
cooked out
got-
on you?
Ran out
Cut-
of fuel.
Ran out of fuel till we got to the end of the runway, and
Boy,
the plane
oh.
then stopped. So we got out, and we had left Bermuda. The pilot bought a case of Canadian Club. The enlisted men couldn't go into town, but they could. And he grabbed the bottle and he just broke it on the plane and passed it to all. We were kids, you know. We drank it. It was like water.
Fantastic.
So we're hugging each other. Thank God we made it. You know, in our minds we're saying, God, my mother's going to get a telegram. Your son is missing in action. We didn't even see action yet, you know. And this is going through your mind. All of a sudden, this Jeep comes out. There's a colonel in it of the base, and he starts swearing at the pilot. What the hell's the matter with you? You didn't even call in. You're supposed to call before you land, you know. And the pilot said, hold it. He says, the guy said, move that plane out of there. He says, it's out of fuel. We're not moving that plane anywhere.
You were lucky you got there.
Then he said, okay, but those are two of the experiences.
Sal, I want to say God bless you. Thank you for your service, but thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Another 5 minutes, you might have been somewhere else.
Who knows?
We wouldn't have been together.
That's what I mean.
Right.
But it was quite a show.
Margaret, if you have an interesting story, let's hear it.
No, I don't. Thank you.
About your childhood.
About my childhood. Well, I was one of those kids that always was doing something. I'm still that way. I'm still always doing something. I have been cross country with 2 other ladies. We went 17,000 miles across the United States, down every state. I've been whitewater rafting. I've been parasailing. I've been down the bottom of the Grand Canyon on the mule. One of my things I really want to do is I want to go to Ireland and sit on the stool and drink Guinness till I fall off the bar stool.
You don't have to go far, right here.
But I'm for enjoying life, and life is what it is. My family's wonderful, and I'm very happy that I met Sal, and we have a good time together. Very good
I'm
time.
glad you met Sal because you both came up together on the show, and that's thanks to Jim here. Thank you, Jim. And if you'd like to say something, go right ahead,
I have
Jim.
one more thing. We went to Hawaii last year for 3 weeks.
I worked there for a while.
And I wanted to ride in the helicopter with no doors. So my daughter and Sal and I went up, and he's banking back and forth. My seatbelt became unlocked.
No doors, and she's sitting
And
you know, he's going like this. So I turned to them. I was sitting with the pilot. She was sitting behind me. And I said, her belt's off. Her belt comes off. And right away, he landed right in the volcano.
In the volcano?
Yeah.
Diamond Head?
Diamond Head. Way over on one side was hard. You know, it wasn't filmy, you know. And he said this was the first time anything like this ever happened. What did you say, dear?
story of my life.
I got to tell you, Margaret, Kalakaua Avenue in Hawaii, when there was a hotel there, I can remember because I was living there, called the Hawaiian Region, which was only 2 hotels away from Diamond Head. There was like a park. After you got to the last hotel, there was like a little park there with the kids would play, and then there was Diamond Head right in front of you. And when I first saw Diamond Head, I thought that was a big thrill to me because, you know, you see it on TV, you see it in the movies, but to actually be there was good. We went to the Polynesian village there.
We did too.
Did
yeah.
you? Did
We did everything.
Yeah,
Everything?
Much as we
you almost
couldn't
fell out
really-
of the helicopter. What more do you want?
Okay, Jim, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I got one story which made, being in the Air Force for 4 years during the Vietnam War all worthwhile. 8 of us were weapons crew chiefs. 4 of us would be in Taiwan and 4 of us in the Philippines, flight line. And Colonel Yeager, not General Yeager, but Colonel Yeager at the time, we basically ran our own show. And we had a Marine gunnery sergeant come in as a shop chief. And it was now spit shine and boots at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is not the way we did things. So got together with the guys in Taiwan and said, we're going to take a calculated risk. So we got the gunnery sergeant together. I said, now he's an Air Force Master Sergeant. And I said, look, you don't know anything about Air Force weapons. You don't know anything the way we do. But we're going to make an offer that you can't refuse. So we have an ORI coming up, which is an operational readiness inspection. And the general is not satisfied unless you have perfection. So we're going to ace the ORI, and we're going to get you a commendation medal. So because of it, you're going to come in and show up at 5 o'clock in the morning, then you're going to go to the NCO club all day and leave us alone. But my best story was 4th of July, 1967. I was leaving the Philippines, and I got a backseat ride in a two-seater F-100 fighter plane. So we level off 40,000 feet over Taiwan, and the pilot says, cross your arms, like this. Because the handle, the ejection handles to blow multiples out of the plane were right here. So he just wanted to make sure it didn't move. He said, we're going to put it in a dive. We're going to get up a little over 1,000 miles an hour. And then we're going to drop 5 miles in 20 seconds, pop a speed brake with a G-suit, and then go in a screaming arc like this, and go weightless. It's like, whoa. And it's like, boom, bang, bang, boom, up and around. And you're just speechless. And then on the way back, I had a crazy pilot. He's doing river valleys at 450 knots. But 6 weeks later, I get a package in the mail, and it's a Mark Buster certificate to Sergeant James Cotter for breaking the sound barrier, signed by Colonel Charles E. Yeager. So that's my prized possession.
I bet.
Right. Now I want to say to all three of you, I want to thank you all for coming on the show. You, Sal Pomer, I salute you again for your service, sir.
Thank you
and
very
thank you
much.
for coming on. You too, Margaret. Thank you for coming on. And I'll get up this time.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
And I got it right. Thank you all for coming on, and thank you for
Yes.
bringing on some beautiful guests that we have here,
I'm
like these two people.
very happy.
And Woody Woodhouse, too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Very happy
And
to.
if you can get a hold of Mr. Powers to come on here, who was our
Ed.
president, we'd love to have him.
Yeah. Al Romano. Al has,
Al Romano.
Al apologized for today, but we'll have him on. But he's
I hope I live
remarkable.
long enough.
Oh, come on.
Well, I hope we all live long enough. Don't
he'll
forget,
come
we're
on.
up in the high, some of us in the 80s, most of the World War II veterans are in the high 80s, low 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Vietnam veterans are in the high 60s and 70s.
right.
Yep.
So it's good to have you. So by closing, I would like to say thank you for coming. God bless you all. God bless the city of Revere and the people of Revere, our troops, and especially our great country, the United States of America. Until the next time, thank you for listening.